Imagine an ancient predator, its jaws big enough to swallow a car whole, disappearing millions of years ago. Or did it? From cryptic disappearances to chilling fossil discoveries, mounting evidence suggests the Megalodon, the most giant shark ever known, might still lurk in the ocean's depths. Prepare to be shaken as we explore 6 of history's most disturbing Megalodon encounters. The musty odor of old paper filled the air as Arthur Blackwood meticulously sorted through a stack of artifacts recently acquired by the Port Royal Maritime Museum. A small, unassuming town on the jagged coastline of southern Jamaica, Port Royal boasted a rich maritime history, and Arthur, the newly appointed curator, was determined to uncover its secrets. A leather-bound journal caught his attention among the piles of weathered charts and rusting navigational tools. The faded inscription on its cover read, "Log of the Providence, Thomas Ainsworth, Master." Arthur's pulse quickened. The Providence, a merchant brig, had set sail in 1863 and mysteriously vanished in the vast expanse of the South Pacific. Whispers of mutinies and tales of sea monsters had surrounded its disappearance. Could this journal finally shed light on its enigmatic fate? As he turned the brittle pages, anticipation ran down his spine. Thomas Ainsworth's penmanship was neat, his words a testament to a bygone era of maritime exploration. The log entries chronicled routine voyages, detailing trade winds and weather patterns. When Arthur reached the date of June 15, 1865, his blood ran cold. The waters around the Samoan Islands were notorious for abundant shark life. From agile reef sharks to massive tiger sharks, these predators were the undisputed rulers of these turquoise depths. However, sailors whispered tales of a creature far more terrifying, a shark of monstrous proportions, a behemoth said to breach the surface like a whale. Its presence was a dark omen, a harbinger of ill fortune. Locals named it Kaihoko, an ancient evil that slumbered for centuries in the ocean's abyss. That fateful day had started like any other, the air heavy with tropical humidity. First mate Eli Weaver, a seasoned sailor with weathered skin and piercing blue eyes, had overseen the daily inspection of the rigging. Young cabin boy Silas Finch, agile as a monkey, had hurried up the mainmast, his laughter echoing across the deck. The Providence, laden with cargo bound for Valparaiso, plowed steadily through the swells, its sails taut with the wind. Unbeknownst to the crew, their tranquil voyage was about to be shattered by a terror from the depths. Suddenly, a tremor surged through the ship like an underwater leviathan collided with its hull. Sailors stumbled, the ship's bell clanging wildly amidst the chaos. On the port side, a shadow materialized beneath the surface, immense, dark, and impossibly fast. Before anyone could comprehend the danger, a considerable maw erupted from the waves, its colossal teeth tearing into the Providence's side. Screams pierced the air as splintered wood exploded and seawater flooded the lower deck. Panic surged through the crew like wildfire. Captain Ainsworth, his normally stoic face etched with terror, bellowed orders, trying to rally his men against the onslaught. The shark circled the crippled ship, sensing weakness, its massive form a ghostly blur beneath the turquoise water. Then it struck again. The bowsprit, weakened by the first impact, snapped like a twig as the creature surged upwards. Silas Finch, perched precariously near the top, screamed as he was catapulted into the frothing sea. A desperate cry went up from the men on deck. Silas was their shipmate, their friend, and now prey to the monstrous predator. A harpoon clenched in his fist, Eli Weaver rushed to the railing. Blazing with fury and despair, his eyes searched for his young charge. But the ocean had swallowed the boy whole, only a faint crimson stain marring the water's surface. Weaver's anguished roar echoed above the swirling chaos. The attack was relentless. The shark slammed into the ship repeatedly, seemingly driven by an insatiable hunger. Men were thrown like rag dolls, their bodies broken and mangled by the ferocious impacts. The deck ran slick with blood, the air thick with the metallic tang and the desperate cries of the wounded. Captain Ainsworth, his leg caught beneath a fallen spar, realized the hopelessness of their plight. He ordered the remaining men to abandon ship, their only chance of survival lying in the lifeboats hastily lowered into the water. But the shark would not be denied even as they scrambled to escape. One by one, sailors were plucked from the heaving sea. Some disappeared in a single sickening gulp. Others thrashed wildly in the water, their limbs ripped away in horrific displays of savagery. The ocean churned crimson. a testament to the bloodbath unfolding within its depths. Eli Weaver, refusing to abandon his captain, battled his way back to Ainsworth's side, but he was too late. As Weaver reached out to free his trapped captain, the monstrous shark breached one last time. Ainsworth was swallowed whole in a final, chilling act of violence. Eli, alone and adrift in the waterlogged lifeboat, watched the Providence list and sink, disappearing beneath the waves with the remains of his crewmates and the last shreds of his hope. Days, he turned into a torturous blur for Weaver. He drifted aimlessly, haunted by the image of the monstrous shark, its vacant black eyes, and the gaping maw that had consumed his world. His survival was a cruel twist of fate, a living reminder of the horrors he had witnessed. It would be a miracle to finally bring him to safe shores, his tale a testament to the unfathomable darkness that lurks beneath the sea's surface. Salvation came in the form of a kindly whaling ship bound for Hawaii. The crew, hardened men accustomed to the perils of the sea, were nonetheless shocked by Weaver's skeletal form and vacant stare. With gentle hands they hauled him aboard, tending to his wounds and providing the sustenance his ravaged body craved. He croaked out fragments of his harrowing tale, but his words bordered on the edge of sanity. A sailor's mad ramblings of a monstrous shark and a ship lost to the depths. Weeks turned into months as Weaver slowly healed. His physical recovery was grueling, and the scars on his body served as constant reminders of the horror he had endured. But it was the scars on his soul that festered the deepest. Nightmares brought visions of the gaping maw and his shipmates' screams echoing across the sea's desolate vastness. The crew of the whaler, though sympathetic, could never truly comprehend the darkness Weaver had witnessed. Finally, when the battered ship docked in Honolulu, Eli Weaver disembarked, a changed man. The once cheerful and robust sailor now walked with a slight limp, his weathered face etched with a permanent shadow. He had returned from the brink of death, but a part of him had been forever lost in the depths of the South Pacific. His tale, told and retold in hushed whispers in dockside taverns, became a haunting legend, a grim reminder that the ocean, for all its beauty, held terrors beyond human comprehension. A veil of fog hung low over the choppy waters of the Strait of Gibraltar on the morning of April 10, 1895. The HMS Atalanta, a sleek ironclad battleship and the pride of the Royal Navy, sliced through the waves with purposeful determination. Captain Bartholomew Sinclair, a stern man with salt and pepper hair and a reputation for rigid discipline, paced the bridge, his gaze fixed on the Spanish coastline looming through the mist. The strait, a narrow passage separating Europe from Africa, was a bustling maritime crossroads teeming with shipping traffic. It was also known for its strong currents and unpredictable undertows, hazards that demanded the utmost vigilance from any captain traversing its waters. Yet even the most experienced sailors of the region whispered tales of something far more sinister lurking within its depths. Rumors of a behemoth of the deep, a creature of staggering size. These shadowy legends spoke of a colossal shark, its dimensions dwarfing even the largest of great whites. Sightings were infrequent and shrouded in myth, but there was a chilling consistency in the descriptions. A vast, dark shape capable of effortlessly capsizing fishing vessels, a maw large enough to swallow a sailor whole. Commander Horace Whitmore stood at Sinclair's side, his ordinarily jovial face etched with a hint of unease as he scanned the murky water. Whitmore, the son of a merchant sea captain, had spent his entire life at sea, yet the strait always filled him with a prickling unease, a sense that the sea concealed more than met the eye. Below decks, Lieutenant Archie Sutton, a fresh-faced officer on his maiden voyage, supervised the routine gunnery drills with nervous energy. Their day began much like any other. Reveille had sounded before dawn, followed by the flurry of activity necessary to maintain a ship of Atalanta's size and complexity. The air buzzed with the clang of metal, shouted orders, and the rhythmic creaking of the massive vessel as it cut through the waves. Yet beneath the veneer of routine, a nagging tension thrummed beneath the surface. Whether seasoned veterans or fledgling recruits, the men sensed something out of the ordinary in the air, a silent acknowledgement of the whispered legends that haunted these waters. Suddenly a tremor surged through the entire ship, a bone-jarring jolt that sent sailors sprawling across the deck. The Atalanta shuddered, its mighty engines lurching to a halt as an oppressive silence descended upon the vessel. On the bridge, Sinclair and Whitmore exchanged looks of alarm and disbelief. The impact had come from below, a colossal force delivered from the unseen depths. Reports flooded into the bridge. The engineers scrambled in the belly of the ship, desperately searching for damaged boilers or breached compartments. Damage control parties fanned out, their lanterns casting flickering shadows on the ship's steel skeleton. But there were no reports of flooding, no telltale hiss of steam escaping from ruptured pipes. As powerful as it had been, the impact seemed to have caused no structural damage. A wave of confusion rippled through the crew. A chilling realization struck Sinclair. If their sturdy battleship hadn't been breached, the force that had struck them must have been monstrous. Could the superstitious tales be true? Had they collided with the Leviathan of the Strait? Whitmore, pale but resolute, voiced the thought that echoed in the minds of every sailor on board. "Sir, if that thing struck us once, it might strike again." Sinclair issued grim orders. Every available man was to be on deck, eyes peeled for any sign of disturbance in the water. Once a symbol of naval might, the Atalanta drifted helplessly as the crew waited with a suffocating mix of dread and anticipation. The fog, once an annoyance, now seemed like a protective cloak, obscuring them from the unseen terror below. Then it happened. Off the starboard bow, the murky water erupted, revealing a sight that would forever shatter the sailors' understanding of the natural world. A monstrous shark, a leviathan dwarfing even the most giant whales, breached the surface. Its skin was leathery, scarred with battles waged in the abyssal depths. A single dead eye, as wide as a dinner plate, stared with a chilling vacancy. Its maw, a gaping abyss lined with rows of serrated teeth, each the size of a man's arm, stretched impossibly wide. The men barely had time to register the sheer, monstrous scale of the creature before it lunged at the ship with terrifying speed. The Atalanta's bow heaved skyward as the creature slammed into its underside, sending shockwaves through the entire vessel. Sailors were flung through the air, their screams lost against the titanic clash. Lieutenant Sutton, caught off guard as the beast struck, was hurled overboard and vanished in the churning chaos. The creature thrashed its movements less like an animal and more like a force of nature unleashed. Desperate gunfire rang out, but bullets glanced harmlessly off its ancient hide. Suddenly, the behemoth vanished, leaving only churning water and a gaping wound in the Atalanta's hull. The crippled ship listed heavily, its lower deck awash with seawater. The pride of the Royal Navy was now at the mercy of this nightmare from the depths. Panic surged through the crew, but Sinclair's stern voice and years of discipline cut through the terror. Damage control parties battled valiantly, desperately working to salvage their wounded ship. The order to abandon ship echoed like a death knell. Sailors scrambled into lifeboats, casting fearful glances at the water, forever haunted by the impossible creature lurking below. The last man to leave, Sinclair performed a final heartbreaking sweep of his beloved ship. 2 agonizing days later, a Spanish fishing vessel stumbled upon the survivors. Their incoherent ramblings of a monstrous shark were met with skepticism, yet the fishermen noticed a newfound respect for the sea had crept into the sailors' eyes. Upon their return to England, Sinclair and Whitmore's official report was met with the usual disbelief. Yet their detailed descriptions, the unshakable terror witnessed by an entire crew, could not be ignored. While buried in naval records, this encounter ignited whispers among sailors and, crucially, a flicker of interest in marine biology. Could the unexplored depths truly harbor such a titan, a relic from a prehistoric age? The Strait of Gibraltar incident became a dark legend and a catalyst proof that the oceans might hold far more extraordinary and terrifying secrets than humanity yet understood. The relentless winds swept across the choppy seas surrounding the Cape of Good Hope on the windy afternoon of March 12, 1848. The Mary Rose, a sturdy merchant vessel laden with exotic spices bound for London, battled against the storm with relentless determination. The Cape, infamous for its treacherous currents and unpredictable storms, had long been the bane of sailors, a place where the fury of nature reigned supreme. His grizzled face lined with years of battling the elements, Captain Ezekiel Davenport surveyed the turbulent waters with grim concern. A seasoned mariner, he had navigated these treacherous waters more times than he could count, yet a nagging unease lingered in his gut. The legends of monstrous creatures lurking beneath the Cape's surface, whispered in hushed tones by old salts in dimly lit taverns, gnawed at his composure. The Cape was a fertile hunting ground for various predators, from cunning great whites to the immense whale sharks that cruised its deeper waters. But tales of a leviathan of unimaginable proportions, a vast shark that dwarfed even the mightiest whales, had haunted the mariners of the southern oceans for centuries. Locals whispered of sailors snatched from their ships in the blink of an eye, their vessels mysteriously foundering without a trace. These tales, often dismissed as mere superstition, took on a terrifying new dimension under the foreboding skies of the Cape. Among the crew was Thaddeus Blackwood, a young naturalist with a keen mind and an insatiable curiosity for the world's wonders. He had eagerly accepted this posting, determined to document the diverse range of marine life that thrived in these biologically rich waters. First mate Jasper Finch, a gruff veteran with a thick walrus mustache and a disdain for academics, viewed Blackwood and his scholarly pursuits skeptically. The day he had started with a deceptive sense of normalcy. The crew continued their shipboard routines, securing the cargo against the rolling waves and mending the wind-tattered sails. Blackwood, perched precariously on the bowsprit, peered through his looking glass, scanning the waves for dolphins or seabird flocks, signs of life amidst the vast, desolate seascape. It was then that he saw it. At first, Thaddeus Blackwood thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. A shadow slithered along the murky depths beneath the ship, a shape so immense it defied comprehension. As the Mary Rose pitched in the waves, the shadow resurfaced momentarily, a glimpse of a colossal dorsal fin, its surface marred with what appeared to be ancient scars. Blackwood's heart pounded, excitement and primal terror warring within him. This was no ordinary shark, a creature of myth made terrifyingly real. His fervent cries of "Shark ahoy!" were initially met with scoffs and dismissive chuckles from the crew. It wasn't until the creature breached partially, revealing its monstrous girth and a cavernous maw lined with rows of serrated teeth, that disbelief turned to horror. The crew's joy evaporated, replaced by a suffocating veil of dread that descended upon the ship. His earlier unease crystallizing into stark reality, Captain Davenport roared orders to bring in the sails. Frantic activity erupted on deck as sailors scrambled, knowing that speed was now their only advantage against the monstrous predator. Blackwood, unable to tear his gaze away from the creature that eclipsed their vessel like a grim omen, fumbled for his sketchbook. He desperately attempted to capture the Leviathan's impossible scale and monstrous features, his pencil trembling in his grip. This discovery could revolutionize the understanding of marine life, but first, they had to survive. The shark, seemingly more curious than immediately aggressive, circled the Mary Rose slowly. Its presence was a suffocating pressure, a constant reminder of the vulnerability of their wooden ship against the raw power of this ancient predator. Jasper Finch's weathered face, now pale, begrudgingly voiced respect for Blackwood's earlier warning. The crew huddled as night fell, finding solace only in shared fear. The shark vanished into the inky depths, but its unseen presence continued to stalk their thoughts. The Cape of Good Hope, known for its fierce storms, was now a prison of their terror. Sleep was a luxury the men couldn't afford, for who knew when the beast might strike from the darkness below? His scientific mind battling against despair, Blackwood tried to make sense of the impossible. Could this be a relic of a prehistoric era, a survivor of a species long thought extinct? Or was this the stuff of nightmares given terrifying form? The questions echoed in his mind, as relentless as the rolling waves crashing against the creaking hull of their ship. One thing was chillingly clear. Should the Leviathan decide to attack, their chances of survival are slim. The Mary Rose, a symbol of man's maritime achievements, would be reduced to splinters. The crew, their lives bound together by a shared love of the sea, now teetered collectively on the brink of oblivion, their desperate hope a fragile shield against the monstrous reality unfolding around them. The Mariana Trench, a crescent-shaped scar carved into the floor of the Pacific Ocean, is the deepest point on Earth. Here, the relentless pressure of the water column is crushing, the sunlight a distant memory lost long before reaching these inky depths. On the morning of August 23, 1875, history hung in the balance as the HMS Endeavour, a scientific vessel outfitted for deep-sea exploration, prepared to plumb these uncharted depths. Captain Reginald Hayward, a sad man with a distinguished naval career, stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the sliver of horizon masking the Challenger deep. Beside him was Dr. Edmund Langley, a brilliant biologist consumed by an unquenchable thirst for knowledge about the creatures inhabiting the planet's most hostile environments. Their groundbreaking mission was to descend into the trench within a primitive iron submersible, a claustrophobic capsule tethered to the ship by a steel cable. The Challenger Deep, a realm shrouded in perpetual darkness, was a place of unimaginable wonders and terrors. Bioluminescent creatures flickered like ghostly apparitions in the depths, their bizarre forms a testament to the extreme adaptations necessary for survival. Yet whispers lingered of a behemoth lurking in this unforgiving world, a legendary predator of colossal proportions, the Megalodon. This prehistoric shark, thought to have gone extinct millions of years ago, was the subject of both fear and fascination within the scientific community. The day began with a mix of nervous excitement and methodical precision. Crewmen buzzed around the deck, double-checking winches and securing lines. Hayward and Langley descended into the cramped submersible, its rudimentary controls and flickering gauges, a stark reminder of the audacious nature of their undertaking. As the crane lowered the iron capsule into the water, a hush fell over the crew, acknowledging the dangers that lurked below. The submersible's descent was painfully slow. The light faded rapidly, leaving only an eerie twilight barely penetrating the thick porthole glass. Hayward and Langley exchanged tense looks, their breathing echoing hollowly within the capsule. Their scientific instruments flickered. Depth gauges ticked ominously, and pressure readings steadily climbed. They were entering a realm beyond the comprehension of most, a place where the very laws of physics seemed to bend to the crushing will of the ocean. Langley's excited gasp broke the silence. A luminous shape of immense proportions passed fleetingly beyond the porthole. At first he thought it an optical illusion, a trick of light and pressure playing upon their exhausted minds. Yet the unmistakable silhouette of a massive shark, its colossal tail stirring the abyssal silt, was seared into their memory. A surge of adrenaline masked the creeping tendrils of fear that gripped their hearts. The Megalodon, a creature consigned to myth and speculation, was undeniably real before their disbelieving eyes. This monumental discovery could revolutionize paleontology and challenge everything known about marine life. Yet, a primal terror battled alongside their scientific awe. They were trapped in their tiny submersible, at the mercy of a predator that predated the dinosaurs. His voice strained, and Hayward barked a command into the crude communication line linked to the Endeavour. With agonizing slowness, the winch began to retract, straining under the weight of their capsule. Langley fumbled with his camera, desperate to capture photographic evidence of their encounter. However, he knew deep down that a blurry image would be met with widespread skepticism back on land. As they ascended, the shadowy silhouette of the Megalodon reappeared. It circled below them, seemingly sizing up this strange metal intruder in its domain. Hayward and Langley exchanged a look that defied vocabulary, a shared understanding of just how vulnerable they truly were. This was no longer a scientific expedition, but a desperate struggle for survival. Suddenly, a jolt surged through the submersible. One of the Megalodon's prehistoric eyes, filled with a chilling, uncaring intelligence, stared at them through the porthole. The jaws gaped wide, revealing row upon row of serrated teeth as the creature lunged upwards. The cable twanged taut, the winch screaming in protest. The ocean floor below them vanished as the Megalodon's impact propelled them upwards with terrifying speed. Within the capsule, all was chaos. Instruments shattered and the thick glass groaned ominously under the immense pressure. Hayward and Langley braced for the inevitable, their scientific minds desperately calculating the agonizing moments before the submersible's hull would implode, sealing their fates in this watery tomb. But the impact never came. The cable, strained beyond its limits, snapped with a loud twang, severing their connection to the ship. In a horrifying moment, the scientists were cast adrift in the abyss, their tiny iron capsule now hurtling towards the ocean floor. They were utterly alone, the light of the HMS Endeavour winking out. leaving them in the heart-crushing darkness. The Challenger Deep, a place of wonder and discovery, had become their prison and potentially their grave. Their frantic calls into the broken communication line were met with only the haunting static of the deep. Time lost all meaning. Was minutes passing or hours? Each labored breath seemed to diminish their dwindling supply of oxygen. Edmund Langley, the driven biologist, found himself consumed not by the grand questions of science but by piercing regrets. The stoic captain, Reginald Hayward, thought not of heroic deeds but of the faces of his family, whom he might never see again. The faintest vibrations thrummed through the water as despair threatened to consume them entirely. A flicker of light in the distance stirred hope within their exhausted minds. As the light grew more robust, the impossible became reality. Another submersible, equipped with powerful searchlights, pierced the darkness, sent by the Endeavour on a desperate rescue mission. Their recovery was nothing short of miraculous. Their tale of the encounter with the Megalodon, whispered in hushed tones over steaming mugs of rum in the crew quarters, was dismissed as hallucinations born of trauma. No photographic evidence remained. Thus, the chilling secret of the Challenger Deep remained, hidden from the world like the prehistoric Leviathan itself, a mystery lurking in the ocean's darkest depths. A thick fog descended upon the frigid waters off the coast of northern Norway on the night of October 4, 1881. The Havet, a sturdy fishing vessel weathered by years of battling the elements, bobbed gently upon the swells. Aboard, the seasoned crew of Ole Johansen, Niels Thorvald, and young Erik Larsen worked rhythmically, their calloused hands mending nets under the dim glow of their oil lamps. These waters, known for their rich bounty of cod and herring, were the source of their livelihood and the backdrop for generations of seafaring tales. Fishermen spun stories over tankards of ale in cozy dockside taverns, legends of the Kraken, a monstrous squid capable of dragging ships to their doom, and of colossal sea serpents rumored to inhabit the deepest fjords. The young and impressionable Erik devoured these tales with wide-eyed wonder while the older men dismissed them with gruff laughter. Yet even the most cynical among them harbored a lingering sliver of unease. The ocean, they knew, had a way of humbling human arrogance. The men worked in companionable silence. Johansen, the grizzled captain with a beard streaked with silver, occasionally cast his gaze towards the swirling mists blanketing the water. His instincts, honed by decades at sea, whispered an unspoken warning. Even on seemingly calm nights, the ocean could turn treacherous with alarming swiftness. Their monotonous tasks were interrupted by a muffled thump against the hull of the Havet. At first, the men should have paid more attention. Debris or a curious seal were common occurrences. However, the thumps persisted, growing in intensity. A collective shiver of unease ran through the crew. This was no natural phenomenon. Niels was the first to peer over the railing into the swirling fog. Then he saw it, a monstrous shadow gliding beneath the murky water's surface. The sheer scale of it was staggering, dwarfing the Havet. He gasped, his voice choked with terror. A Leviathan! Panic threatened to consume the crew. Ole, ever the pragmatist, instructed Erik to fetch the harpoons. The boy scrambled into the hold, his heart pounding like a drum against his ribs. As he re-emerged, he saw an impossibly sizable dorsal fin break the surface, a fin that could easily slice their humble fishing vessel in half. The air filled with a cacophony of shouts and prayers in their native tongue. In the heart of the chaos, Ole Johansen's instincts took over. With the decisive command of a seasoned mariner, he ordered the men to cut the fishing lines and prepare to abandon ship. Their lives now hung precariously on the whim of a creature of immeasurable power. Niels and Erik fought the icy grip of panic as they fumbled with the lifeboat. Time seemed to distort under the weight of their terror. Their movements became agonizingly slow, their thoughts fractured. The Leviathan circled ominously, the swirling fog cloaking its monstrous form. The men knew that even if they managed to escape their stricken vessel, they were adrift in frigid waters, at the mercy of the behemoth that stalked them. Then, as if sensing their escape attempt, the creature surged from the depths. The Havet, no match for the sheer power of the beast, splintered like a child's toy. Wood groaned and snapped as the monstrous shark breached partially, its milky, unblinking eyes seeming to lock with Erik's. He screamed, a spontaneous, desperate cry for help that was quickly swallowed by the dense fog. Ole and Niels found themselves in the icy water, their limbs numbed by the shock. They thrashed wildly, clinging desperately to the remnants of the shattered habitat, their shouts muffled by the oppressive fog. The world was reduced to a chilling swirl of mist, frigid water, and the paralyzing certainty that the Leviathan lurked somewhere in the impenetrable expanse. Suddenly, Eric felt a crushing pressure on his leg. He screamed in agony as he was dragged into the murky depths, his fading vision catching a glimpse of colossal, saw-edged teeth. Eric's cries were cut short, replaced by the sickening sound of bone and sinew tearing, the water churning crimson around him. He was but the first offering to the creature of the abyss. Ole and Niels huddled together, their voices hoarse from screaming, their hearts a relentless drumbeat in their chests. Sanity teetered on the precipice. They shared horrifying visions of their shipmates' gruesome fate. A predatory intelligence radiated from the unseen depths below their bobbing forms. The creature seemed to savor its terror, toying with its prey before delivering the devastating blow. The fog, their former ally, was now a suffocating shroud, obscuring the stars that could guide them and hiding them from potential rescuers. With each passing minute, hope succumbed to bleak resignation. These seasoned sailors, accustomed to the fickle nature of the sea, now faced a horror far beyond any storm or shipwreck. They were prisoners of the midnight shadow, their fates held captive in the jaws of an ancient predator. As dawn tentatively painted the horizon, the exhausted men awaited their inevitable doom. The fog began to lift, revealing a vast, empty seascape. Their rescuers, a passing whaling ship alerted by the remnants of the habitat, found them incoherent and half-mad with fear. Their garbled account of the Leviathan that lurked below was met with a chilling mix of pity and skepticism. The sea, indifferent to human suffering, would not yield its secrets so easily. Ole and Niels returned to their village forever scarred, their eyes haunted by the horrors they had witnessed. The incident became yet another whispered tale, dismissed by most as the ravings of traumatized men. But for those who plied their trade upon the unforgiving waters of the north, an unshakable unease gnawed at their souls. The ocean, they knew, still held terrors beyond human comprehension, and the midnight shadow was a chilling reminder that the sea's true masters might forever remain unseen yet undeniably real. A veil of fog hung low over the choppy waters of San Francisco Bay on the morning of June 12, 1907, obscuring the iconic Golden Gate Bridge. The city, a bustling hub of commerce and innovation, boasted a long and storied maritime history. However, a series of recent chilling disappearances had cast a dark shadow over the once familiar waters. Whispers of a monstrous predator lurking beneath the surface rippled through the docks, stirring fear among fishermen and seasoned sailors alike. Sarah Blakely, an ambitious young journalist with an insatiable thirst for truth, sat hunched over her typewriter in the cramped offices of the San Francisco Chronicle. The editor's gruff dismissal of the recent disappearances as mere accidents or mishaps fueled her determination. Having grown up on tales of the bay's mysteries, she was convinced there was more to this story than met the eye. The San Francisco Bay, a rich estuary teeming with marine life, offered ideal hunting grounds for various predators. Leopard sharks patrolled the shallows, while mighty thresher sharks could be spotted further to sea. Rumors of massive great whites were familiar, their hunting territory encompassing the entire California coastline. But these recent vanishings seemed different, marked by a chilling absence of wreckage or remains. These disappearances and occasional sightings of an enormous dorsal fin scything through the water gave credence to a terrifying possibility. Could the Megalodon, an ancient leviathan thought extinct for millions of years, have somehow survived undetected in the vastness of the Pacific? Sarah's reporter instincts told her there was a story here that could either cement her reputation or expose her to public ridicule. Her first step was to delve into historical records. In the dusty archives of the Maritime Museum, she unearthed yellowed logbooks and faded newspaper clippings. Accounts dating back to the 1800s told of sailing ships damaged under mysterious circumstances, of seasoned sailors disappearing from the decks of their vessels without a trace. These older accounts echoed the eerily similar pattern of the recent vanishings. Her investigation then led her to the heart of the local fishing community. Old-timers at Fisherman's Wharf, their weather-beaten faces etched with a lifetime spent on the capricious waters, spoke reluctantly, their eyes darting towards the fog-enshrouded bay. They grumbled about ruined fishing nets, their voices thick with fear. Some whispered the Spanish name El Diablo, hinting at a demonic creature of unimaginable power. After much persuasion and several shots of whiskey, a grizzled fisherman named Seamus O'Reilly shared his own harrowing tale. Years ago, his small fishing boat had been rammed by force, shattering the hull like a matchstick. He barely escaped with his life, swearing he saw a monstrous eye filled with cold malevolence staring up at him from the depths before the creature disappeared. Armed with a collection of chilling testimonies, Sarah sought the opinion of a marine biologist from the University of California. Dr. Elias Thorne, a skeptic and man of science, initially dismissed the notion of a megalodon lurking in the bay. Yet a glimmer of doubt flickered in his eyes when Sarah presented the meticulously compiled historical accounts. After all, the oceans held countless secrets, and discoveries challenged conventional wisdom with alarming frequency. Motivated by scientific curiosity and Sarah's persistence, Dr. Thorne agreed to a preliminary investigation. They chartered a research vessel equipped with essential sonar equipment, meticulously scanning the murky waters of the bay. The locals watched from the pier, their curiosity mingling with fear, their unspoken question hanging in the salt-tinged air. Would Sarah's pursuit of truth lead to dismissal or expose them to a horror beyond imagination? The sonar pings echoed maddeningly through the water, yielding no sign of life forms of extraordinary size. The initial scans proved inconclusive, and disappointment threatened to engulf Sarah. However, she found renewed determination as night descended upon the bay. Bioluminescent plankton painted the water in an ethereal glow with each movement of the research vessel. Suddenly, a massive shadow disrupted the ghostly light. The sonar picked up a colossal object lurking in the depths below them, its dimensions dwarfing any creature on record. Panic shot like electricity through the small crew. Dr. Thorne, his lifelong skepticism shattered, urged the captain to return to shore with all haste. But before they could escape, the vessel was rocked by a blow from below. The lights flickered ominously as the boat lurched violently, the engine sputtering and groaning as if fighting against an unseen force. The crew scrambled for life vests, their faces etched with stark terror. A gaping maw lined with countless rows of teeth rose from the depths in the swirling vortex of bioluminescent light below the vessel. The terrified screams of the men were cut short as the ancient leviathan lunged, shattering the vessel with the effortless ease of a predator toying with its prey. In the horrifying moments that followed, Sarah clung to a piece of wreckage, witnessing the full scale of the impossible creature. It was the stuff of nightmares, a monstrous relic from the age of dinosaurs unleashed in modern times. The Megalodon, its predatory instincts honed over millions of years, feasted on the crew's remnants before disappearing into the impenetrable depths. Sarah's miraculous survival and her subsequent account of the monstrous shark sent shockwaves around the world. Yet no physical traces of the creature were ever found. Official reports attributed the tragedy to a freak boating accident, dismissing Sarah's claims as the trauma-induced ramblings of a grieving woman. Her story became a cautionary tale, a reminder that the vastness of the oceans held secrets that might be too terrifying for the human mind to grasp fully. And so, the mystery of the San Francisco Bay Leviathan persisted, relegated to the realm of shadowed legend. In the quiet solitude of the night, when the fog rolled in from the Pacific, old sailors on the pier would swear they could hear mournful bellows echoing from across the dark waters, a haunting symphony in tribute to the creature they called El Diablo, a predator from the dawn of time that still lurked in the depths, defiant of human understanding.